Let's stop pretending. Let us strip away the comfortable lies we tell ourselves about getting ready for the collapse. You are sitting there, perhaps with a few months of freeze-dried food, a water filter you've used once, and a tactical backpack you bought on a Black Friday sale. You look at that pile of gear, and you feel a sense of agency. You feel like you have a fighting chance. I am here to tell you that you are playing checkers while the masters of the universe are playing four-dimensional chess on a board you didn't even know existed. While you are worrying about how to defend your suburban home from a looting neighbor, the ultra-wealthy are engineering a reality where you simply cease to exist in their equation. This is not prepping. Prepping is what people do when they hope to survive a storm until the government turns the lights back on. What the billionaires are doing is decoupling. They are building a breakaway civilization. They aren't planning to ride out the storm with you. They are planning to close the door on you. They are constructing a parallel world defined by exclusion, autonomy, and a level of technological fortification that renders your AR-15 and your gold coins utterly irrelevant. Here is the brutal truth that no survival blog will tell you. The wealthy view you the average citizen, the consumer, the worker is the primary threat. In their risk models, you are not a fellow survivor. You are excess biomass. You are the chaos they are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to insulate themselves from. So, forget everything you think you know about survival. Because if you want to understand the real future, you have to stop thinking like a prepper and start thinking like an architect of a new world order. You need to look at the map not as a collection of countries, but as a heat map of survivability. And when you look at the world through the eyes of algorithms and climatological models, you start to see why they are all buying one-way tickets to the same specific coordinates, the science of sanctuary, why physics dictates geography. You've heard the rumors, Zuckerberg in Kauai, Thiel in Queenstown, Ellison in Lanai. You think this is a coincidence? You think they just like the beaches? These men don't make billion-dollar decisions based on vacation preferences. They make them based on data. Let's go deeper than the headlines. Let's talk about the latitude of life. In a global systemic collapse, whether it's nuclear, biological, or a runaway climate feedback loop, the northern hemisphere is a death trap. It is where 90% of the human population lives. It is where 95% of the nuclear targets are located. It is where the industrial pollution sources are concentrated. When the balloon goes up, the northern hemisphere becomes a mixing bowl of radioactive isotopes, weaponized pathogens, and desperate, starving humanity. The billionaires are relying on a planetary defense mechanism that most people have forgotten. From their high school geography class, the Hadley Cells. The Earth's atmosphere isn't one big room. It's divided by invisible walls of wind. This is why New Zealand isn't just a country to them. It's a lifeboat. Located at 41 South, it is perfectly positioned. It is insulated by thousands of miles of the Southern Ocean, which acts as a massive thermal regulator and a physical moat against the chaotic migration of refugees. You can't walk to New Zealand. You can't take a raft to New Zealand. Unless you have a blue water navy or long-range aviation, New Zealand might as well be on Mars. But it's not just about hiding from radiation. It's about the resources required to rebuild civilization from scratch. Let's look at the geology. These bunkers aren't just holes in the ground, they are geothermal parasites. New Zealand sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Why does that matter? Because when the supply chains break and the diesel stops flowing, you need energy that doesn't run out. Geothermal energy is infinite, consistent, and underground. It doesn't rely on the sun, which might be blocked by ash, or the wind, which might be unpredictable. It allows these compounds to run massive server farms, hydroponic lighting systems, and air scrubbers indefinitely. And then there is the water. We aren't talking about rain catchment. The elite are tapping into deep aquifers, ancient underground reservoirs of water that have been filtered through volcanic rock for millennia. This water is immune to surface fallout. While you are trying to filter radioactive dust out of a puddle, they are drinking glacial age water pumped directly from the crust. They have calculated the elevation to avoid rising sea levels. They have mapped the soil pH for post-industrial agriculture. They have modeled the social stability index of the local population. They have effectively shorted modern civilization. They are betting against us, and they are using their winnings to build the ark. But here is the catch. The geography is perfect, the engineering is sound, the resources are secured, yet there is a ghost in the machine, a variable that no amount of money or concrete can fully eliminate, and that variable is the very people they need to build it. Now that they have secured the geography, the next phase is fortification. But erase the image of a concrete box from the 1950s. What is being built today is not a bunker. It is a fully autonomous biosphere. It is a technological womb designed to keep its occupants alive when the atmosphere outside becomes hostile to carbon-based life. The first line of defense isn't guns, it's air. The oxygen you are breathing right now is free. In a collapse scenario, whether it's nuclear fallout, a weaponized airborne virus, or the toxic smoke from continent-spanning wildfires, clean air becomes the ultimate luxury good. The billionaires aren't buying gas masks. Gas masks are for the desperate. They clog. They leak. They fail. The elite standard is positive pressure architecture. Here is the engineering reality. Their facilities are hermetically sealed vessels, kept at a slightly higher atmospheric pressure than the outside world. This involves massive industrial compressors that constantly push filtered air out. If a seal breaks, if a door cracks, the air rushes outward, preventing any pathogen or radioactive particle from drifting in. It is the same physics used in level for biosafety labs. Scaled up to the size of a mansion, the filtration systems are not just HEPA. They use military-grade CB or N chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear scrubbers coupled with active ionization arrays to strip contaminants at the molecular level. While you are taping plastic sheets over your windows, they are living in a clean room environment where the air is purer than it was before the Industrial Revolution. The invisible enemy, surviving the electronic apocalypse. But even if you can breathe, you can't survive if you are blind and frozen. This brings us to the threat that keeps Silicon Valley awake at night, the EMP electromagnetic pulse. A high-altitude nuclear detonation doesn't just knock out the lights. It fries the microchips that control the water pumps, the ventilation, the medical equipment, and the digital locks. Modern society is a fragile web of semiconductors, and one pulse can send us back to the 19th century in a nanosecond. The billionaire solution is the structural Faraday cage. They aren't just putting their laptops in a foil bag. They are embedding conductive copper and galvanized steel meshes directly into the concrete walls of their bunkers. The entire facility becomes a grounding shield, diverting the electromagnetic surge around the living space rather than through it. But here is where the strategy gets interesting. The smartest preppers know that technology will eventually fail. The entropy of complex systems is unavoidable. So, alongside their high-tech shields, they are investing in analog redundancy. They are installing mechanical water pumps that run on gravity and gears. They have diesel engines that use mechanical fuel injection, completely devoid of electronic control units ECUs. They are hoarding libraries of physical books, manuals on surgery, agriculture, and engineering printed on acid-free paper. They are preparing for a future where smart technology is a liability, and dumb, rugged mechanics are the key to survival. They are hedging their bets against the very digital world they help create. The art of invisibility, security through obscured gnome. You have a perfect, air-filtered, imp-hardened fortress. Congratulations, you have just built the most valuable loot box on Earth. If people know where you are, no wall is thick enough to keep them out forever. History teaches us that every fortress eventually falls to a siege. So, the ultimate defense is not thickness, it is invisibility. This is the era of stealth architecture. The goal is to erase the footprint. Satellites with thermal imaging can spot a heated bunker, vent from space, Drones can map the magnetic signature of a large underground steel structure. To counter this, the elite are employing countermeasures that rival military black sites. They are building underground to use the Earth's thermal mass to mask their heat signature. They are using heat sinks to disperse exhaust gases into underground aquifers, rather than venting them into the air. Above ground, these facilities look like nothing: a dilapidated barn, a natural hillock, an abandoned mine shaft. This is psychological camouflage. They want you to look at their sanctuary and see nothing worth taking. They rely on the fact that starving mobs will not waste energy digging up ale, unless they know there is gold inside. The best bunker is the one you walk right past without ever knowing you were standing on top of $1 billion worth of survival gear. But let's say the camouflage fails. Let's say the desperate masses find the entrance. Or worse, let's say the threat isn't coming from the outside at all. This leads us to the most critical, unsolvable equation in the entire survival calculus. You can filter the air. You can block the radiation. You can hide the heat, but you still need to eat, and you cannot eat gold bars. Let's talk about the math of starvation. The average human needs about 2,000 calories a day to function in a high-stress survival scenario. That number goes up. Most preppers solve this with math they learned in elementary school. Accumulation. If I need 0 calories a day, and I buy 10 years worth of freeze-dried beef stroganoff, I survive for 10 years. That is linear thinking, and linear thinking gets you killed when the crisis is exponential. The billionaire strategy is not about storage. It is about generation. It is about achieving biological autonomy. They aren't building pantries. They are building ecosystems. The primary threat to agriculture and a cataclysmic event, be it a supervolcano or nuclear winter, is the loss of sunlight. If the sky turns black with ash, photosynthesis stops. If photosynthesis stops, plants die. If plants die, animals die. And if animals die, you die. The entire surface food web collapses in a matter of weeks. So, how do you feed a bunker when the sun is gone? You build a new sun. Deep inside these New Zealand fortresses, they are constructing multi-story vertical farms. But these aren't your backyard greenhouses. These are sterile, hermetically sealed laboratories illuminated by specific spectrum LED arrays that run 24/7, powered by that infinite geothermal energy we discussed. They don't use soil, which can harbor pests and diseases. They use aeroponics, misting nutrient-rich solutions directly onto the roots suspended in air. This increases growth rates by 300% while using 95% less water than traditional farming. But man cannot live on lettuce alone. You need dense protein. And here is the harsh reality of bunker life. You cannot bring the cows with you. Livestock is inefficient. A cow converts 25 pounds of feed into 1 pound of beef in a resource-constrained environment that is thermodynamic suicide. The solution sounds like a horror movie, but it is the cutting edge of food science, cellular agriculture. They are installing bioreactor stainless steel vats that look like a brewery, but function like a wound inside. They cultivate animal muscle tissue from stem cells. No bones, no hooves, no brains. Just pure, sterile protein growing in a nutrient bath. It is meat, stripped of the animal. It is efficient, it is scalable, and it requires 0 sunlight. While the surface world is hunting rats, the elite will be eating lab-grown Wagyu beef that has never seen a pasture. For the purists, there is aquaponics. This is the engineered circle of life. Tilapia fish live in tanks. Their waste provides ammonia, which bacteria convert into nitrates to feed the plants above. The plants filter the water, which returns to the fish. It is a closed-loop caloric engine that can run indefinitely as long as the pumps have power. The pharmacy at the end of the world. But calories are only half the battle. What happens when you get an infection? What happens when you need insulin or pain relief? The medicine in your bathroom cabinet is a ticking clock. Antibiotics lose potency. Chemical compounds degrade within 5 to 10 years. Even the best stocked pharmacy becomes a library of useless pills if you cannot manufacture. Medicine You are one cut finger away from death. The elite know this. They aren't just stockpiling pills. They are stockpiling the means of production. They are investing in desktop chemical synthesizers, 3D printers for molecules that can print essential pharmaceuticals from raw chemical precursors. And for long-term sustainability, they are turning back to the old ways, backed by new science, medicinal botany. They are dedicating sections of their hydroponic gardens to growing opium poppies for morphine, willow bark for aspirin, and foxglove for heart medication. They are preserving the knowledge of how to turn a plant into a pill. They are ensuring that when the industrial supply chain dissolves, they remain the masters of their own biology. This leads to the final, most critical component of biological survival, the seed vaults. You might have a bag of seeds from Home Depot. Throw them away. Most modern seeds are F1 hybrid genetic dead ends designed to produce one great crop and then sterile offspring. You cannot save seeds from a hybrid tomato and expect to get a tomato next year. It is a biological trap set by agribusiness. The billionaires are filling cryo-freezers with heirloom seeds, open-pollinated varieties that breed true, generation after generation. They are building personal backups of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. They are preserving the genetic code of the Holocene era, ensuring that if the sky ever clears, they have the source code to reboot the biosphere. So, they have the location, the fortress, the energy, and the food. On paper, they have solved the equation of survival. But there is one variable that defies physics. One variable that cannot be grown in a test tube or filtered out of the air. It is the variable of movement. Because all this preparation means nothing if you cannot get to the bunker before the doors close. Let's assume the worst has happened. The news alerts are screaming. The markets have flatlined. The panic is viral. This is where the billionaire's plan faces its most critical stress test: logistics. Because having a fortress in New Zealand is useless if you are stuck in traffic on the 405 in Los Angeles. This is the concept of the golden hour. In military trauma, it refers to the critical window where medical intervention can save a life. In billionaire survivalism, it refers to the narrow slice of time, perhaps 60 to 90 minutes between the initial event and the total lockdown of airspace and infrastructure. Most elites live in the very targets they are trying to escape: Silicon Valley, Manhattan, London. These are dense, fragile urban centers that will transform into death traps instantly. When the grid fails, the traffic lights die. When the fear hits, the highways become parking lots. If your escape plan involves a car, you are already dead. The escape vector relies on speed and verticality. Helicopters are the first stage. They bypass the gridlock, but helicopters have limited range. They are just the shuttle to get you to the real asset, the long-range private jet. But here is the physics problem that money struggles to solve: range anxiety. A Gulfstream G650ER has a range of about 7,500 nautical miles. That can get you from San Francisco to Auckland if the winds are favorable and if you don't have to divert. But what if you are in London? What if you need to refuel? In a collapse scenario, stopping for gas in Hawaii or Fiji isn't a layover. It's a vulnerability. Imagine landing your shiny $60 million jet on a remote island where the locals have just realized the world is ending. Do you think they will let you fuel up and fly away to paradise while they are left behind? No. You become a resource to be seized. The refueling stop is where the plan dies. So, the strategy has shifted from escape to pre-positioning. The smartest billionaires aren't waiting for the sirens. They are embedding themselves in there. Save zones now. They are buying holiday homes that are actually fortresses. They are acquiring golden visas and citizenship in nations like New Zealand, Portugal, and Switzerland. They are normalizing their presence there. They move their families part-time. They enroll their kids in local schools remotely. They aren't fleeing when the disaster strikes. They are simply already there. They have removed the most dangerous variable, travel, from the equation entirely. For those who must stay in the danger zones until the bitter end, the assets are getting weirder. We are seeing a rise in STOL short takeoff and landing aircraft sales to civilians. These are planes that can land on a soccer field or a dirt road, bypassing major airports that will likely be seized by the military or overrun by mobs. And for the maritime option, the blue water yacht, but not the party boats you see on Instagram. These are expedition yachts, floating bunkers capable of independent operation for months. They have solar arrays, desalination plants, and hardened hulls. Some even carry personal submarines. It sounds like a Bond villain fantasy. But the logic is sound. If the land is burning and the seas are rioting, the middle of the Pacific Ocean is the safest quarantine zone on Earth. But here is the jagged edge of the logistics problem. The one component you cannot automate. The one piece of hardware that has a heartbeat, the pilot. You can own the jet, you can own the yacht, but can you fly it? Can you navigate the ocean? Probably not. You rely on a specialist, a human being who has a family of his own. In that golden hour, when the sky is falling, you call your pilot and say, "Let's go." What happens if he says no? What happens if he decides that the seat reserved for your bodyguard is now reserved for his wife? What happens if he flies you halfway over the ocean and then turns around and says, "We need to renegotiate my contract"? Suddenly, the billionaire isn't the boss anymore. He is just a passenger. The power dynamic flips instantly. The man with the skill holds the leverage. The man with the money holds nothing but paper. This brings us to the terrifying, unspoken heart of the entire survival industry. The paradox that keeps them up at night. The threat that no amount of concrete or technology can neutralize. The loyalty paradox. This is it, the fatal flaw. The glitch in the simulation that no amount of coding can patch. You can engineer a bunker to withstand a direct nuclear strike. You can grow protein in a vat without sunlight. You can filter the air of a dying planet. But you cannot engineer loyalty in a world where money has lost its definition. Here is the nightmare scenario that the billionaires are actually terrified of. It's not the bomb. It's the bodyguard. The event happens. The grid goes down. The SWIFT banking system evaporates. The billionaire is safe in his New Zealand fortress. But he is not alone. He is surrounded by private security detail, Navy SEALs, SAS commandos, Israeli Mossad veterans, hardened men trained to kill, men who were hired to protect him from the mobs outside. But once the airlock cycles shut, once the outside world ceases to exist, the social contract evaporates. In the old world, the billionaire was the alpha because he signed the checks. In the new world, the checks are toilet paper. The digit 1 followed by 9 zeros in a bank account means absolutely nothing. The currency shifts instantly from capital to force. So, the question becomes, why would a team of elite combat veterans take orders from a soft-handed tech CEO who can even change a tire? Why wouldn't the head of security just put a bullet in the billionaire's head, take the biometric keys, and become the new lord of the manor? This is the return to feudalism. The man with the sword is the king. The man with the gold is just a loot drop. The billionaires know this. They are obsessed with it. I have read reports from futurologists who consult for these elites, and the questions they ask are chilling. They aren't asking about water filters. They are asking, how do I maintain authority over my security force after the event? And their solutions are dystopian. They are brainstorming technological chains for human beings. They talk about disciplinary collars, literal explosive or shock collars worn by staff, where only the billionaire holds the biometric remote. They talk about robotic sentry dogs armed with machine guns that are hard-coded to obey only the owner. They talk about locking the food supply behind iris scanners and voice recognition that only they can activate. Think about the psychology of that. You are building a sanctuary to save humanity, but you are designing it like a high-security prison where you are both the warden and the inmate. You are planning to spend the rest of your life locked underground, sleeping with one eye open, terrified that your own chef or your own pilot will slit your throat for a bigger ration of synthesized protein. That isn't survival. That is hell. The smart ones, the very few, who actually understand human nature, realize that the only way to solve the loyalty paradox is to change the definition of the group. You don't hire security. You bring family. You don't hire staff. You build a community based on shared values before the collapse. You make yourself valuable not because of your bank account, but because of your skills, your leadership, your empathy. But for the masters of the universe who are used to treating people like disposable assets or lines of code, empathy is a foreign language, and that illiteracy will be their death sentence. Finally, let's look at the long game. Let's assume they survive the fallout, the starvation, and their own mutinous security guards. What then? They have saved their biological bodies. But have they saved civilization? A breakaway civilization needs more than just warm bodies. It needs knowledge. If the internet is gone, if the cloud is vaporized, how do you rebuild? You need to know how to smelt iron, how to make glass, how to perform an appendectomy without a robot, how to build a steam engine. This is where the knowledge arcs come in. Billionaires are investing in long-term storage solutions. They are etching Wikipedia onto quartz glass squares that can last for 10,000 years. They are burying libraries of technical manuals printed on acid-free paper and waterproof vaults. But here is the supreme irony. The billionaires made their fortunes in the digital world. In the realm of the intangible, they deal in derivatives, in algorithms, and attention economics. But the post-apocalyptic world is intensely physical. Knowing how to code a social media algorithm is useless when you need to fix a diesel generator. Knowing how to leverage a buyout is worthless when you need to graft an apple tree. So, they are building a future where they are, statistically, the least useful people in the room. They are preserving a hierarchy that no longer makes sense. They are trying to carry the world of inequality, of leverage, of abstraction into a new world that requires cooperation, sweat, and soil. And that is why their plan is doomed. Not because the concrete isn't thick enough, not because the location isn't perfect, but because a society built on fear, exclusion, and selfishness cannot survive the harsh reality of a broken planet. They are building tombs, not arcs. They are walling themselves in with their own paranoia, while they hide in their holes, calculating their rations and watching their guards with suspicion. The rest of us, the ones who are left behind, will be doing something else. We will be rebuilding. We will be relying on our neighbors, not our employees. We will be sharing resources, not hoarding them. We will be surviving through connection, not isolation. The ultimate survival strategy isn't a billion-dollar bunker in New Zealand. It isn't a robot dog or a shock collar. It is a community. It is the person standing next to you. It is the skill in your hands and the trust in your heart. So, let them go. Let them build their breakaway civilization. Let them spend their billions trying to escape the world they helped break. They can escape the fallout, but they can't escape themselves. And in the end, that is exactly what will destroy them.